Let's head now to retired Colonel Miri, the former head of IDF Combat Intelligence and the former advisor to Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Miri, good morning to you. Let's first discuss the topic of Egypt. Evidently, yesterday being Monday, Egypt coming out and saying that they had sent severe warnings, multiple warnings, to the Israeli leadership, of which was ignored. Both the Prime Minister's office as well as other senior figures in the Israeli political landscape saying that was simply not true. But Egypt continues to rebuff these claims.
When we talk about the relationship both between Egypt and Israel, I imagine that in this sort of situation, they can be sending in things, but it wasn't that they sent in a clear-cut idea of exactly what was going to happen. This was a pre-planned, comprehensive, executed terror war attack that's been in planning for years. And if last week Egypt did or didn't say something to the Israeli top brass, just like the Israeli top brass, and I say within that, very few voices came up and said we need to be deployed in a different way on the Gaza Strip towards Hamas, meaning we understood the capabilities, and what Nicole was describing before of the capabilities Hamas are one thing. And I think that Egypt have seen Hamas for many years, both as a terror organization, understand the complexity, and I'm sure probably did say that there's an imminent danger. But saying an imminent danger is not saying that there's going to be a planned massacre attack against 25 Israeli communities on a Saturday morning. That's not exactly what they would have delivered last week. Somebody would have noticed that.
Absolutely. And speaking of terror, there is just numerous fingerprints pointing at all of this being headed by Iran, who has been funneling weapons as well as money into the Gaza Strip for years, not just in light of this particular massacre on Israeli soil. Iran coming out and saying they have absolutely zero responsibility for what is happening at the moment. Just what exactly can we confirm at this point with regards to Iran's involvement in what is undoubtedly the largest single killing of Israelis and Jews since the Holocaust?
State-sponsored terrorism is a challenge that the entire world faces. Of course, Iran denies whatever they're doing. I also want to separate. Hamas was founded as a terror organization not inspired by Iran, as opposed to Hezbollah, which is a Lebanese terror organization inspired by the Iranian Revolution, as they'll call it. So the fact that you can see the Iranian capabilities, and certainly in supplying, and I would say in a lot of the planning, Hamas is a terror organization. And I need to be very clear. They're a Palestinian terror organization. It's as if we're afraid to say the word. It is not Iranians who are attacking us right now. It is Hamas, terrorists from the Gaza Strip. For many years, we've talked about the tens of thousands of Hamas terror activists in the Gaza Strip. They're being attacked right now. And again, this isn't Iran. This is Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Hamas terrorists are in the West Bank. Hamas have tried to recruit terrorists inside the state of Israel. Terrorism is not something that Iran invented. It backs it. It's state-sponsored. It likes to use proxies. Hamas is not an Iranian proxy. So I'm not giving you an exact answer, but I wanted people to understand that, yes, most definitely Iran is a spirit and somebody that supplies weapons. But this barbaric action is what a Hamas Islamic terror organization does. It pre-plans the massacre of over 1,000 Israeli civilians inside the state of Israel at the same time in the morning in the most barbaric manner. That's a terror action. And how nice, says Miri in a cynical way, that Iran backs it and says that it's okay. And of course that they had nothing to do with it. They are a state that sponsors terrorism worldwide.
Miri, we have to discuss the issue of those that have been kidnapped. There are just so many points of this multi-pronged almost massacre in Israel, but the kidnappings are something that are completely unprecedented. We have never seen this. In fact, it's been done in a fortune of doomsday scenarios with IDF training, that this would be a situation that could happen, and it has happened. The IDF is slowly starting to tell some of the families about their loved ones in Gaza. What more do we know, and what is Hamas's aim here with some of the Israeli civilians?
You stated very clearly, Batya, that this is so unprecedented that even when you do it in scenarios in the real life, you go, really, the terror, barbaric people just took people. First of all, they burned people in their homes, had them come out, murdered them, and plucked a 4-year-old or a 2-year-old or an 85-year-old Holocaust survivor beyond unprecedented. But yeah, we don't know the numbers yet. I think that within the IDF, they probably do. And I think that because this is such a sensitive, challenging issue that the families themselves will get to know, I think there's the combination that right now, they haven't yet identified all of the different bodies. I mean, this is unprecedented. And so they need to do it very carefully. Hamas are going to use this for psychological warfare. And we all need to be aware because we are strong and we are here. And that's something that's very important for us. This is specifically to hurt our resilience, meaning us talking about it. If we show those horrific pictures, then we are in our own way helping and strengthening Hamas. We need to be strong. So I want to stand out and call out every single one of those people. I want them to see that in the world. But here domestically with inside Israel, we also need to stand strong and understand that we need to step into this with our heads up. I have no idea how an unprecedented type of negotiation that I can't think of would take place when it comes to this type of hostage. I can say that what Hamas wants, this is not about Israel, this is me as the director of the Institute for Counterterrorism at Reichman University, newly stepped in these days. I'm saying, looking at it from that point of view, what do Hamas want? First, they want us to be terrified, to be scared, to show that they won, to show that they did resistance. They're there to show their strength. And I'm saying this to all of our viewers in the world. They're proud of what they just did. They're proud of it, and they want to flaunt it, and they want to taunt us, and that's part of the negotiation itself. In addition, what they want to do is to release literally every single terrorist inside Israeli jails. The terminology would be the security prisoners, as that's the type of terminology. That's going to be what's at stake right now. They're going to look back at, for them, the success in 2006 of kidnapping an Israeli soldier and getting, in an exchange 5 years later, over 1,000 terrorists. That's their goal. How will Israel withstand this? What are we going to do? How are we going to get it back? Our civilians that were kidnapped out of our homes. And again, I'm addressing all of our viewers in the world. You realize that it is a terror organization and terrorists that have no qualms, taunting, flaunting savages.
I think it needs to be made very clear, and you definitely alluded to that. We are not talking about Hamas having some kind of quote-unquote military operation. This is not 1973. It is not a territorial border dispute. This is kidnapping women, children, and the elderly from their homes within Israel territory, and literally videos coming out from the Hamas terror group that they have published showing them pushing these, as you mentioned, evidently proud of the situation. But we do need to touch on a topic that may be hard to swallow, in particular for Israelis. There can be no doubt that America has our backs, that they have our support. There is zero doubt when it comes to that. However, there is some concern amongst Israeli citizens and the leadership that perhaps the money that was sent over or unfrozen from the Iranian sanctions, from the prisoner swap deal that happened just a few weeks ago, could have been channeled from Iran into Hamas, that could have somehow been connected to what has unfolded over the weekend. The U.S. is very quick to put through support and to send warships. Are they, at least for a small part, potentially complicit in what has unfolded over the past 4 days?
No, Batya, I really, in that sense, want everybody to understand that a terror massacre attack of what we saw right now, which is a scenario where I say again, sadly, we'll talk about the surprise afterwards, but the scenario of this combined type of terror attack is something that the IDF has been training for, albeit training for it on the northern border. And in that sense, it would be, it has the negative potential on the northern border, but this is something that is planned in months, years in advance. last month is not what made the difference in this type of planning. Iran has been there all of the time. It's not that they suddenly said, oh, we got a green card and a free thing and we can now execute it. This is Hamas. This is Hamas showing its hand. This is Hamas that wants to show that it can do such things. Hamas is overwhelmingly looking at the Palestinian arena with the backing of Iran. So I do not stand here now and say anybody in the world in that sense with their relationships with Iran is to blame. We have a lot that we need to understand about what it means with state-sponsored terrorism, what it means with a hybrid terror organization like Hamas. I want to hope that after the last 4 days, people understand a bit better that terrorism is terrorism and state-sponsored terrorism is also. So I cannot go into the domestic aspect of the United States exchanging in any way for their own people. We're about to go into a negotiation, and I don't want us to talk about the price. I think it's clear to everybody, isn't it? We're going to have to pay a price to be able to get back our hostages. It doesn't matter that they did the most barbaric attack on earth. We want to get them back and alive, and that's going to be at a price. Part of the price right now in that sense is going to be impacting our capabilities within the Gaza Strip, meaning, so do you attack or don't you attack? The IDF has done something that they've never done in the past. We are attacking systematically all of the different Hamas targets that are absolutely Hamas that they on purpose placed in schools, in mosques, next to hospitals. And for the first time, we are attacking them and saying that we attacked the mosque that had this, the hospital that had that. But at the end of the day, we don't know exactly. I don't know what to say. I mean, where are the hostages? What's being happened? That barbaric Hamas are saying that they're going to execute a hostage every day. They are barbaric, and we need to look at it that way. So it isn't about Iran in the timing. It isn't about that specifically right now. It is about Iran, state-sponsored terrorism, not just hovering over it all, but as a spirit that everybody says, look, you can be a country like Iran, totally oppress all of your people there and support all of these different terrorist organizations, not just Hamas, throughout the Middle East and the world, by the way.
Speaking of those barbaric attacks, I do just want to point out to the viewers that they were looking at live images of the Gaza Strip, but also the IDF's fortification on the ground by the border with those tanks. We can see them again now on the screen. Still with me, retired Colonel Miri Eisen. Miri, in the last minute that we have left of this broadcast, a watershed moment in itself that it almost seems international media is a little less critical of Israel as well as the IDF. Is this likely to last in the days ahead?
I've already called out even on CNN that they're still calling them militants. Do you think it's maybe about time, international media, that you show the pictures and use the word terrorists, that you understand what it means, terrorism? This isn't militants. The people who are the biggest losers in everything that happens here are the Palestinian people. We're going to stand strong and we're going to get past it. But to what you said before, I couldn't watch the video. I've been avoiding watching those things. And I think that the international community in that sense, yes, it has clear voices. This is about terror, barbaric massacre. And that's what we need to be focused on, recovering from that.
Retired Colonel Miri Eisen, the former head of IDF Combat Intelligence and the former advisor to Prime Minister Ehud Olmert. Thank you very much for being with me this morning and breaking down all the latest updates on the 4th day of the war.